Hello friends, today let's talk about the ways of obtaining a residence permit in Montenegro that you should not use. The first method we'll discuss is fake employment. If we look back a bit, fake employment in Montenegro was extremely popular, probably just about 5 years ago. There were companies like mine that actively advertised this way of obtaining a residence permit, saying, guys, this is cheaper than starting your own company. It's just as good. Why overpay? Let's do it this way. And people were flocking in droves. I never used this method myself because I always told everyone, guys, with fake employment, if you use fake employment, you might run into problems in the future when applying for permanent residency for this reason and that and that. As you can see, I was absolutely right. All the reviews about people not getting permanent residency in Montenegro are mostly related to the fact that at some point they used fake employment. So essentially, they have only themselves to blame. But nevertheless, the desire to save money is very strong in people. That's why for many years people took the risk and used this method to obtain a residence permit. I thought it all ended in 2018 when a new law on foreigners was passed, which clearly stated that employees both real and fake cannot obtain permanent residency in the future. At that time I thought it was all over. I even wrote an article with the loud title, A Fatal Blow to Fake Employment in Montenegro. You can find it on the internet. But to my great surprise, in 2021 this topic started to come back. I won't mention any names now or say which companies are offering this. I'll just read you one ad that I found on the internet. So they're offering fake employment, you could say it outright. We will find you a company where you will be employed. No monthly expenses are required. Well, first of all, whether your employment is real or fake, there are always monthly expenses because there are payroll taxes that the employer has to pay for you. If they tell you that no expenses are required, it means they arrange a residence permit for you and then immediately fire you. Most likely, they don't even tell you anything about this. And basically, you end up living for a year in the wrong way. That is, when you lose your job, you're supposed to go to the MUP, admit that you've been dismissed, basically ruin your own record, and then leave the country. After that, you can re-enter and stay for 30 days as a tourist. Well, Russians get 30 days, Ukrainians get 90 days, and so on. It depends on your citizenship. So here, they're basically telling you guys, you have to break the rules. By the way, this is a pretty serious violation, and you never know how it might come back to haunt you someday. Next, they write, the simplest, most accessible, non-binding, and inexpensive way to obtain a residence permit. But first of all, as I already said, non-binding is not quite correct. Secondly, they didn't mention that this way of obtaining a residence permit cannot be converted into permanent residency in the future. That's it. In other words, you shouldn't engage in fake employment. I talked about this back in 2011 when I had just arrived in Montenegro. I'm repeating this now as well. That's it. The second way to obtain a residence permit in Montenegro, which also shouldn't be used but is sometimes asked about, that is a sham marriage. And in fact, this option is technically possible, yes. That is, you can find some woman or man who, for money, will agree to register a marriage with you at the registry office. In this way, you can enter into a marriage for 6 years, well, maintain it for 5 or 6 years until you get permanent residency. The question is, why? Obtaining a residence permit through a company costs 100 euros per month. So that's 1200 euros a year. How much would you be charged for entering into a sham marriage? Just imagine, you come to a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. You say, so dear friend, I want to enter into a sham marriage with you. I'll pay you for it. I have one condition. I need to maintain this marriage until I can get permanent residence. After 5 years of living here, I can apply. And then it'll take about another year to process. So I need you to keep this marriage going for 6 years. In other words, under no circumstances should you marry anyone else. So what do you think, what kind of sum do you think they'll ask for this? It probably won't be 50 euros a year, right? I think it'll be nowhere near even 1,000 or 200 euros a year. If you offer, say, some really extravagant terms, like here's a suitcase full of money, you'll probably find people willing to do it. But if you say, let's make it 1,000 a year, I think everyone would refuse. Nobody wants that kind of hassle. And even if someone does agree, well, they'll live with you for a year or 12, not with you. I mean, they'll help you with legalization for a year or two. Then they'll say, listen, I found myself a boyfriend, I'm getting married, so you're on your own. Go find yourself another woman, take a break from your residence permit now, and start counting the years all over again. There you go. So as we can see, this option also doesn't really make sense in principle. It's unclear why you'd even consider it. The third option I want to talk about today is asylum. Yes, in Montenegro, you can get a residence permit if your life is threatened by organized crime in your home country. And I get asked about this a lot. Well, if you're Navalny or someone of a similar level and opposition figure somewhere in Russia, Ukraine, or Belarus, and you're actually facing real threats, then maybe you could get a residence permit, provided you can prove it. It can't just be that you feel like someone is following you or something like that. If you can justify and prove it, then yes, you can get a residence permit. But first of all, most people who apply, then, if they are actually in danger, can't prove it. Secondly, most people aren't really in any danger at all. They're running from their homeland basically for the same reasons I left. That is because life there isn't very comfortable, the environment is bad, crime is high, and so on. But none of these are grounds for being granted asylum. People start making things up and stretching the truth. They say, for example, that their ethnicity is somehow wrong. They claim we have Tatar features and we are constantly being beaten up there. So that's one example, and there are other reasons people claim for fleeing as well. But they can't prove any of it. In other words, they're just making statements without evidence. Naturally, such people won't be granted asylum. But even if someone does get it, you have to understand that asylum has certain drawbacks compared to getting a residence permit through a company. I won't list them all right now. That's a topic for a separate video. But you can just Google it. Here's a short example, for instance. Let's say refugees don't have the right to free healthcare or free medical services. With a residence permit through a company, you do have that right. Plus, a company-based residence permit is guaranteed, is given to everyone. Open a company, get a residence permit. But with refugee status, you still have to prove it. Whether you'll be able to prove it or not is still unknown. You won't be able to prove it on your own. That means you'll have to hire local lawyers, you'll have to hire local translators. In the end, you'll end up spending quite a lot of money. Much more than it costs to open a company in Montenegro. That's all from me. Goodbye, everyone.